sanctuary was the difference between me doing that in an extremely grumpy mindset and me doing that with the extra energy and reserve and healing time to be friendly. Which we already established what I'm like when I'm not friendly.
He's a grizzly bear, not a teddy bear.
And okay, to be fair, you and I both know there are times where you want to point the grizzly at a project.
Absolutely.
And for those who don't, and I think this is actually worth talking about, because you mentioned this earlier with neurodivergence, and you obviously, you can't discuss neurodivergence or mental health without understanding the spectrum of different types of people and the different types of general personalities. We are a society of radically and randomly diverse personalities.
Yes.
That when they click, when you get the right personality at the right job, they're a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, that awesome force is not always the best personality to be socialized with certain other personalities. When I am on mission mode, like when I'm getting the food moved out of the car because we're on the 8-ball, I am going to get the job done.
For sure.
Then I'm going to spend the next half hour apologizing to everyone I effectively stepped on, because my job is to get the job done. And I think one of the things that your personal work, not so much sanctuary, I think that's kind of a byproduct of the same mindset, though. You are with kind of this new generation that is engaging the SCA with this idea of the mental sciences, of not blanketly saying you were rude. It's like, okay, that came across bad. I get where you're coming from. Let's, or at the same time, I think I heard you at one point explain to someone else, they're like, yes, that was rude, but they were in a really bad strait and they were busy. I don't think it was personal.
Right.
So, excuse me, that is not a conversation that Onsturo was having 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Matter of fact, it was a conversation I can absolutely attest to was shunned 15 years ago. This wasn't something we talked about or did. And here you are quietly but very effectively fostering it. How does someone like you, or rather, how did you accumulate that level of emotional, intellectual, or subject matter intelligence on this? I mean, you're not a counselor, you're not a professionally trained, but you arguably do know more than is the average in the North right now. Excuse me.
Honestly, the short of it is, honestly, it's my work. And I know that, especially if you know what I do, that sounds very bizarre. So I'm an inventory manager.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I work for an HVAC supply company.
Okay.
I do not work with personnel, not directly. But the company that I work for fosters a very positive outlook on mental health and taking care of their employees and oneself and their own psyche. And so during the off season, we actually go through, under the guise of team training, we go through personality training and understanding in depth the differences between our coworkers and how we can better communicate with those different coworkers. We actually go off of the Berkman theory, which, like many other personality assessments, it catalogs your different strengths, weaknesses, your stress responses, and things of that nature. I've been with this company now for about 2 years, so I've gotten to go through 2 cycles of these particular trainings, plus I have a one-on-one with our Berkman specialist every month. So just that training alone has really helped me see in greater detail the minute differences and nuances between different personality types and how some personality types may clash with others or work well with others. So a lot of my knowledge that I have now is based off of that. Beforehand, it was internet research and,
There's something to be said for herd knowledge.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, also just, the observation of what Odd experiences versus what I experience. I mean, I'm basically a parrot and he is basically a crow.
Is this where we make the joke about him finding and collecting the shiny, and that's how he brought you home?
That's essentially how that happened, I think. So, he's very
And
quiet.
I don't think we've said this in this sentence. Odd is your husband.
Odd is my husband, yes. He is very reserved. He's very quiet, rather stoic, very punny.
All of a sudden, this relationship makes more sense.
Yeah, I'm the ADHD nut job, and he's the punny one. It gets to be very entertaining at our house. But trying to figure out how to explain to him, normal people don't respond and react and think the same way you do, coming from this crazy person, and then trying to make sure that he understands. I swear to God, I'm not lying. Like, try this. The parrot says, do this. It'll work, I promise. But mostly personal observation, and then, of course, that additional training is where a lot of this comes from, and just general populace observing. I love watching people.
Yeah. And I always like putting things through the historical filter. Mm-hmm. It really does sound like the modern incarnation of herd knowledge. Of, you hang out at the edge of a community long enough, you pick up all the stuff that no one else knows they're saying, and all of a sudden you know more than you thought you knew a year ago.
Yep.
So how many like for a one-day event, because that's kind of our average model right now, how many people would you say goes through your sanctuary?
On average, we serve roughly 20 or so.
A day?
For a one-day event, yeah.
That's not a small number.
Mm-mm. And, I mean, the way that I look at it is, if Sanctuary can help one person.
Yeah.
One person, that's all that matters to me. If I can help one person, then it's all worth it.
And on principle, I'm 100% with you. But the flip side of that, I have to kind of play the devil's advocate here, is you've talked about a massive logistical output. You've talked about a massive personal investment. Those cots, those beds, I know the chair you're talking about. That's not a cheap investment. It's wonderful that you have the standard set for one is enough, but 20, that's a fifth of some events go through. I mean, that's the type of outreach, again, that water bearers and heralds have. So this is a really good return on investment for the barony, for the principality, frankly.
Yeah.
Now I want to turn. We have not talked about this ahead of time. I'm going to turn this conversation around, and I've got a slightly different set of questions for you.
Okay.
If someone hearing this conversation realizes, wow, part of the reason I'm having trouble at events is I'm getting burned out, or I need a quiet place and there isn't one. Just to start with this, what would you recommend that they do to help them cope with an event that maybe doesn't have a sanctuary type space? What can they do to help them recover from okay, this morning was a bit much?
So I know before we started doing Sanctuary, most of the time, if I became overstim at an event, it would be finding the least populated spot, whether that be outside or in like an arena area that maybe they were doing fighter stuff, but there weren't many people up in the stands, finding a quiet corner and just breathing it out, in
like
and out.
Legit breathing exercises.
Legit breathing exercises, like in, slower out, than what it came in. Mostly that, or as you can kind of see, I'm fidgeting a little bit. So finding a good fidget. I have two of them. I have a bunny and I have a tail. And I do fidget constantly. That kind of helps me level out. For Odd, he just has to get away from everything.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, that's the running to the car type situation, getting the AC going, or the heater, Medfair.
It was cold and wet this year.
It was awful. But finding quiet places and also thinking about what works best for you. Because
Okay.
for
But-
me, it's fidgeting and quiet, but not everybody needs that.
But the theme I'm hearing is whatever you need to do for you, do it. Like
Yes.
this is valid. There's not
Yeah.
there should not ever be, or you should not ever give credence to the just tough it out, it'll get better at the end.
Absolutely not. No,
Yeah.
you're not going to enjoy an event if you're having to tough it out.
Yeah.
That was one of the happy side effects to Sanctuary, is that people who were utilizing us on the regular basis tend to stay at the event longer,
Mm-hmm.
and they tend to seem to enjoy it more because they've had a chance to kind of recollect themselves. So definitely, if it's just too much, do whatever works best for you, so long as it's legal. I know Scadians. I have to say
This
that.
is she's not wrong. I'm going to interject a funny story for you.
Sure.
When we ran the second Herald's Retreat, which was down here at the same site we did Yule at.
Okay.
It's a plainclothes event.
Okay.
And when people were asking, so what's the dress code? And this is being
Oh.
SCAers, they're pushing the limits, and I go, okay, here's my qualifiers. Don't do anything that's going to get you arrested, and don't do anything that's going to get the minister of the church mad at me, because it's my church, so I'm the one they go to. And all of a sudden someone, well, what about, I go, don't do anything that's going to get you arrested, don't do anything that's going to get the minister mad at me. After that,
Yep.
I don't care.
Yep.
We had one person who her husband said she was this close to walking in flip-flops and pajamas. And honestly, I wouldn't have minded, but I was just
No.
like, you know what? That's not necessarily the look we were going for.
For sure.
But I just figured with that qualifier, I figured would have dovetailed nicely in yours.
Oh yeah.
So now, and maybe you had this conversation, maybe you haven't, I'm curious. Suppose someone far flung from us, someone who is Southern Onstior or Callantyr or whatever, another kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose this idea has never occurred to them before. They're seeing this video and they're like, oh, this is an interesting concept. I want to try and do something like this. How does someone start down the path of offering a sanctuary-like service without putting a six-figure debt in their
for
bank
sure.
account? I mean, how do you get your foot in the water and see if this is something that your area is receptive to?
First off, talk to your leadership.
Okay.
Make sure that your direct leadership is good with the idea. I mean, I only say that so you're not stepping on any toes anywhere, and so that they stay aware and that their officers can stay aware. You can also bring it up to kingdom, principality, whatever level.
Upper level leadership.
Just upper level leadership, just to let them know, hey, I'm going to be doing this, or I'm going to try to do this. And then work with your autocrats and at least get a space designated. You do not have to go in there with cots already. If you want to do that, ask to borrow them from other populace members. Please put out a call for help.
Or maybe they have their own. They could
Yes,
throw in.
if they
like,
have.
I've been playing a quarter century. I've got some extra cots I
sure.
could throw under a tent.
But if you're new,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
absolutely send out a call on the Baronial Facebook pages or the Kingdom Facebook pages and saying, hey, we're doing a quiet room. We're looking for some of these things. Can anybody let us borrow them? But finding a space and starting out small, I highly recommend. Just have chairs and maybe, if you can get your hands on some of those cheap $3 Walmart blankets,
yeah.
those make a huge difference for some people that just need to curl up.
Yep. And on those, it's not even necessarily the thermal properties; it's the tactileness.
It's the
of
tactileness.
something.
It's feeling like you're being hugged type thing. You don't have to start out crazy, but just having a space designated and making sure that it's monitored. That's really it. That's all
Okay.
you really need. You can even ask people, if you want to use the quiet space, you might bring a camp chair.
Okay.
You don't have to go crazy.
Now, I'm going to ask this for two reasons. One is I am the person who overanalyzes everything, engineering brain. But also, again, talking to an audience that is seeing all this in a vacuum, does not have the context of ever having been to a sanctuary. Are there written rules? Are there policies? Is this make it up on the fly, what are your guiding principles, and do you communicate them? I guess, what's the compass that navigates this, is the more poetic way of putting it.
So we do have a set of rules. I will be honest, we don't abide by them directly. Originally, I said, no unsupervised children. I'm still very strongly with that. Unsupervised children should probably be at children's activities. But the general rule is, as long as you can respect the people who are also using Sanctuary and keep the talking at a minimum, keep it nice and quiet and just respectful, that's really it.
Okay.
I do try to keep a little bit of a head count, obviously. We accept feedback, suggestions, and things of that nature, but like cut and dry rules, we don't really have anymore.
Okay.
It's just be respectful. If you're wanting to take a nap with your kids, that's totally fine. You have to stay with your kids. And don't be loud.
That's fair.
Easy.
That's fair. Okay. And that makes perfect sense. I know from a number of unrelated projects over the years, there's always the more people get involved, or the more people whose toes you're stepping over, the more rules they want to cover their bases. And I 100% get that. I really don't want to talk like I'm making fun of a barony or a kingdom for protecting their interests.
Right.
If you don't lay down rules, you're not protecting yourself.
Right.
But the principle here really is set up on a very, to borrow from the Sermon on the Mount, a very golden rule type mindset.
Yes. And if we make it too structured, people are less likely to actually utilize the service. Rules are scary. Rules can be overwhelming.
Fair. That's fair.
So, I mean, it's just like you said, it's basically the golden rules. That's pretty much it. We're not looking to be crazy.
Now, do you guys have any, when I say you guys, you and your husband and whoever else is helping you, do you guys have any, like, bag of tricks that you don't traditionally talk about? Like, you don't advertise, I have X, Y, or Z, or I have this number saved on my phone just in case. But do you have anything that you guys kind of keep on the standby in case it's needed, peace of mind level? My thought on this is, I always have local law enforcement, local emergency service on speed dial on my phone. Anywhere I go, I have looked it up ahead of time. I'm a former firefighter. It's inherent. I would be twitchy if I didn't have that. Right. So I was just kind of curious, is there anything like that, like lessons learned that make your life easier, or?
Really, the only thing that, and I'm kind of ashamed to say it, the thing that we have as like a safety standby is we have our own first aid kit that has a lot of OTC stuff, and the biggest thing is the instant ice packs. Okay. Just because events get hot, people get hurt. Yeah, those are my two reasons.
That's fair. That's fair.
But past that, anybody who's volunteering at Sanctuary knows that they can send somebody to get me at any point. But usually, if things are going super south, this is where I'm a little bit ashamed. Somebody at the event has already probably contacted authorities before we've ever.
That's fair, and that's fair. Yeah, probably going to be the first point of contact. Like, anyone can be the first point of contact. But I don't think it's fair to expect Sanctuary to be ultra prepared for that. Right. But you guys as a team know how to get a hold of the autocrats, know how to get a hold of a seneschal. You all have cell phones and you know they work. So heaven forbid assistance is needed at that level. Those are. Yeah,
everybody who volunteers are all they're tenured Scadians, or at least as tenured as I am. So they know if something goes south, who they need to go and tell.
So, and what I'm hearing here is the Sanctuary and your efforts overall are fully integrated into the event's infrastructure. There's not going to be any "who the hell are you" when you raise your hand and go, we need something. Everyone's like, Sanctuary, Seren, okay, here's what we got. What do we need? Yes. And this all works. Just as if it was Waterbearing raising their hand, or list mistress or list master raising their hand, that
Yeah.
type of thing.
But
Okay.
generally, like, if a volunteer needs something, they'll usually come to me first because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody knows that I'm the sanctuary person.
Yeah.
So if they need something, they'll come to me and I'll get it for them.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of how that works.
So it's really, I mean, on the surface, it's a very simple idea, very elegant. I don't even think simple's right. I think it's very elegant. If there are two things I've learned that drive videos these days, it's controversy and engagement. Now, I am never going to fly the controversy flag on a regular basis. It's not what I'm here for. It's not the content I want to make, and I really don't think it helps any of us. But let's do engagement. If you like this video, please go down in the comments and leave a comment. Make sure to share the video. And last but not least, easiest of all, make sure to like the video. That helps drive the algorithm. It helps get the video views and helps promote this material. Thank you very much.